Hey everybody, welcome to How to Be Happier. My name's Lucia France and this episode is called Being Anti-Racist. So joining me today, we've got presenter, producer and broadcaster Afua Adom and Yemi Sawyerr, owner and founder of Light Switch Film and TV Production Company. So Afua and Yemi, thank you so much for taking the time to come and have a chat with me on Zoom today. It's Friday and it's the end of a very long and exhausting week, so it's really good to see you both. And how are you both doing today? Afua, I'll go to you first.
Thanks for having me. Thank you so much for having me to do this. How am I is a good question. Tired, definitely exhausted. It's been a heavy week, definitely, to say the least. But good. Otherwise good. Yeah, good. How are you?
I'm all right. Yeah, I feel, it's been a very strange time. Lockdown's been strange. These last couple of weeks have been just crazy. And I'm just so grateful you guys are here to have a chat with me. And how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Thanks for having us both on the podcast, on the show, Lucia. Very happy to be here. Would have been nice if it was under different circumstances, obviously.
Yeah.
But really happy to be here. Thanks for having us. And I'm doing okay. I'm doing fine. I'm just muddling on through one day after another. And I'm okay.
Awesome. So this morning I've been asked by a number of people, why do I want to make this episode? Why did I want to have this conversation? And why am I suddenly so worried about racism? And I guess I wanted to make this episode because witnessing that brutal video and the brutal murder of George Floyd, I don't know why it took that, but something inside me snapped. And it seems like, and I hope as well, that it's made something in society in general snap as well. I reached out to both of you guys because, loads of reasons. You're both my friends and ex-colleagues of mine. I've known you both a long time now, getting on for 20 years.
Wow. We're really old.
Showing our ages there. And I really did want to have a genuine, honest and open conversation about racism and talk about what I can do as a white cisgendered female to stand alongside my friends of colour to propel the anti-racism movement forward. And even as I'm speaking to you guys now, I'm worried that I'm not going to find the right words to say, and it's a difficult conversation to have. And I feel that I should have, and I could have done more to speak out earlier and sooner. And I'm saying this to you guys, I'm truly sorry about that. And I guess what I'm learning more and more is that the calling out of racism begins with myself, as well as the wider world around us all. I don't want to go on for too long about this, but with the best will in the world and all of the empathy, I, as a white cisgendered woman, simply can't go there in saying that I understand what Black, Indigenous people of colour go through on account of the colour of their skin on a lifelong and daily basis. But what I can do now is try to understand. What I can do is educate myself, and what I can do is be better in using my voice and offer and give my support and my proactivity in changing things for the better on a lifelong and daily basis. And I'm sorry I'm going on here as well, but what I can also do is call myself out. So look at my own white privilege, look at what I have said or done, or not said or done, which has helped to sustain systemic and casual and ingrained and insidious racism. And that in itself is scary and difficult and uncomfortable. And sitting in front of you guys now, I couldn't be more embarrassed and cringing at myself and berating myself for what I'm about to say. I've already sent you guys this in an email, but you know what? It isn't about my discomfort. So here goes in calling myself out. So I've got 5 things I wanted to say. Number 1, in writing the post that I wrote on Facebook about George Floyd, there was definitely a part of me that was worried I'd offend certain people and they might think differently of me, or it could even change certain relationships by writing the hashtag Black Lives Matter. As you both know, too, I work as an actor and presenter, and over the past few years, I've noticed more BAME, Black and Asian minority ethnic castings for jobs. And sometimes if I clicked on a job that was just for actors from that background, part of me has occasionally felt marginalised, never mind the fact that often for castings of my ethnicity, skin tone isn't even mentioned because it's an expected norm. 3, I've sometimes failed to call out or turned a blind eye or said something ineffective or simply tutted my disapproval and made others feel comfortable when certain people have come out with racist comments. And one of my favourite quotes is about the only thing that is necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to stand by and do nothing. I'm paraphrasing there, but that's very ironic. 4, I don't actually do this anymore because I was called out on it by a friend, but in past years I have mentioned somebody's race in explaining a situation that happened to me when it was just absolutely not necessary. Maybe I thought I was being descriptive and maybe it was just plain racist. Number 5, my knowledge of Black history is limited and I haven't done much to change this until very recently. So that's out there now, and I'm sure that's not an exhaustive list by any stretch, but guys, I'd just love to hear your thoughts on what's been going on over the last couple of weeks, what you would like to talk about, what I've just said, and why you think conversations like this are important, because I'm hoping that you do, given the fact that you're both here with me right now. So, Afua, we'll go.
Okay. There's a lot to unpack. Okay, first of all, I think that the ability to be able to call yourself out, recognize where you have done wrong and gone wrong is really, really important. And I think a lot of white people are very, very quick to say other people are racist, but I'm not racist, and are not prepared to look at their own selves and not prepared to look at ways that they haven't been the most sensitive, where they have done things that are racist but not realized, and then when they are told or called out about it, they are defensive about it. So I think the ability to call yourself out is important, it's necessary, and it's needed. I think the ability or the want to do the work, the want to educate yourself, and I'm going to say do the work throughout this whole thing, because that's what I think it's all about, is that if you're going to be an ally, be an active ally, be prepared to do the work. And I think that the want to do that is really important. And I think it's also beyond social media. I mean, 6 years ago when Black Lives Matter first started, and it's something that started on social media, that kind of activism, and people took to the streets. Over here, I think we more kept it to social media. We tweeted and retweeted things because we didn't feel it was on our doorstep. And now don't get me wrong, we've been here for hundreds of years. We've seen systemic racism, inbuilt racism, racism that's part of the construct that just is, part of society that we live in. I think lately there's been more of a movement, a sort of reigniting of Black Lives Matter movement, even though it never went away. We know that. But I think it's going beyond social media, isn't it? It's being able to do things and want to do things that are not just about posting a black square or using a hashtag. Like I said, it's about doing the work. So if we talk about the past 2 weeks, and I'm going to take the past 2 or 3 weeks when we've been talking about Ahmaud Arbery, we've been talking about Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, and I'm just going to talk about these 3 specific cases. Yeah. And I obviously acknowledge that there's so many more.
Yeah,
Eric Gardner, Sandra Bland, all of them, so many, even going back to Rodney King in the 90s, But if I talk about the past 3 weeks, for me personally, it's felt very different. I remember working in a newsroom when Black Lives Matter first came to the fore, and this is, I think it's 2014. And that was around the time of Tamar Rice and Eric Garner. And I remember thinking then, this is a seismic movement. This is going to cause a shift. And I remember talking to 2 people that I was on shift with on that day, on those days, over those times, over those months, and talking to them 2 weeks ago. The 3 of us were working on this same story 6 years later. And we were like, nothing's changed. How are we still here in 2020? How is this still happening?
Yeah.
I do feel that this time is slightly different. I do feel that the way that we've seen widespread protest around the world, I was at the protest on Wednesday, and what really, really struck me was seeing people like young white men, young white women. I saw some signs like white Asians for Black Lives Matter, South Asians for Black Lives Matter, like all these denominations, Jews for Black Lives Matter. I've never seen that before. And to see and to speak to all these young people, I must admit, when I was doing my Vox Pops as a journal, I ended up speaking to more white people than Black people. And it was, you know, talking about, there was one girl who was with her friend was Black, he was Black, friend was white. And when I asked her why she was here, she was like, because, you know, I see what happens to people like my friend, and I haven't said anything. I haven't spoken up. And then she just started to cry. And she was saying, like, I've never done anything. I feel so horrible about it. And she's like, I had to be here. I had to show solidarity. And she just kept saying, I've never done anything before. I can't believe I've never done anything before. I've never done anything before. And that's why I think maybe this time, I hope, I pray that this might be a real seismic shift, because I think it feels different. It feels like there's more people that want to be part of this movement. However, young people on the ground, people like us having this discussion is all very well and good, but we need the upper echelons. Are the police going to realize that they cannot behave in a way that is brutal towards the public? Are Parliament going to realize that the disparities among Black people dying from COVID-19 is something that actually needs to be taken seriously and investigated? Are people going to realize that nearly 2 years after Grenfell, people have still not been rehoused? And are the government going to do anything about it? Do you know what I mean? It's all very well us marching, but until we change the construct, you know, it kind of feels slightly moot.
Yeah.
That was a very long answer.
No, that's great. It was a very long question, to be honest with you. And yeah, I think it's about taking it all the way up to the top. But I guess the only way, or one of the ways to help do that, is getting more and more people on board. And you know, I'm glad that you feel like there is a more of a shift going on. What about you, Yem?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I'd say that your what you said at the beginning was really heartfelt. Thank you for that. It's, you know, your apology is deeply and warmly accepted, and great. I'm grateful that you're speaking so openly on this platform. It's amazing. So go you. I know you so well, Lou. I don't feel you need to apologise, but there it is. It's out there.
I do. But thank you for accepting it.
But yeah, I mean, everything that Afua's been saying is basically spot on. The general feeling I have at the moment is, I think, a little bit more macro over Afua's picture, which is a lot broader, you know? So from my perspective, I'd say that it has been a very tricky time, but I'm actually trying to start with myself first, because whilst you've mentioned things that you think you've done in the past that you should have done better, and a lot of people who are more conscious of the situation are also doing the same, which is brilliant, I could definitely have done more in the past. Not so much in the way I responded to situations I was put into, but more about how and when I talked about them, because we just didn't.
Yeah.
Like, at all, at any point, to anyone. We just didn't. It was just easier, I should say. It was easier to keep everybody calm and happy, everyone in their world and their existences, where they didn't have to contemplate the general day-to-day of looking like me. And it wasn't something that I felt other people would be comfortable. And when I say other people, I mean my closest friends to people I met 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
That broad of a spectrum. So from now on, I've become, day by day from this, since the 25th, I think it was, of March. Was it March or June? Where are we? What day is it? I don't know.
May.
No one knows.
No one knows. Since the 25th of May, every day I found myself feeling more and more confident to just be honest, just be myself. Because because I'm going to say something that's going to sound ridiculous. It's going to sound ridiculous, but I promise you it's the truth. For my entire life, I have not been my full self.
You know what? I'm not interrupting you, but 100% agree with you. Carry on.
Yeah. I have not been my full self. I have been a percentage of myself, a degree of myself to compensate, to fit in, to be me in this world where what I should have been is just myself, my full self. And if you can't handle that, if you're not comfortable with that, that is your choice. But I don't feel the need anymore to temper down, to moderate, to just be what you expect. Well, not you specifically, but generally what people expect in order to be accepted, to fit in, to be right. That's how I feel now.
Yemi, I just on that note, I over the last few days, I mean, I think you didn't the last couple of days, but you wrote a number of posts on Facebook that started with, "Did I ever tell you about the time?" And these were experiences and situations that you'd had from a very young childhood in school and getting on a bus and going to school all the way up till like the last couple of years. And there was one that I read about at the Cheltenham Festival. Do you mind if I read it, or have you got it there to read?
Okay, yeah. So essentially, I was working at the Cheltenham Festival. I'm a filmmaker in a film production company. I was working at Cheltenham Festival. I had some camera kit with me. It was a midweek, around 2 or 3 in the afternoon. I was heading back to the Airbnb where we were staying. I was on my own. It was busy near the town centre area, lots of flat caps, tweed, nice dresses, revelry, should we say. And this big group of people came towards me, and they were laughing and pointing, which immediately get the alarm bells ringing. But I was on the phone to my missus, and she was letting me talk to the kids because I haven't seen them for a couple of days because I was away filming. Yeah. And these people started chanting. What can I say on here, by the way? They just started chanting.
Oh, I feel like I know what's coming.
They just started chanting heavily racist abuse at me. I'm just walking along the street, right? It's the middle of the day. The sun's out. It's busy.
It's fine for you to swear. Like, go for it.
Well, they just started chanting really racist abuse at me, and I immediately hung up the phone because I was really worried that the kids were going to hear. And I had my staff, and I put the phone down, and I just carried on walking because I wasn't 100% sure. I didn't put this on the story, but I wasn't 100% sure I'd fully hung up the phone because I was trying to do it so quickly because I didn't want them to hear what the people were saying. I didn't want my kids to hear what those people were saying. Okay, so I just kept walking. All of that is awful, as you can imagine. But the reason I was posting that story is not because of what actually happened, but because of the reaction of everybody else, which was nothing, literally nothing. When I say nothing, I mean almost like people had momentarily switched off their senses. You know, they were just in their bubble of their spaces. Nobody was saying or doing anything.
No, and you weren't doing any. So it was just you on your own, and not a single person kind of said anything or did anything or made.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what I would have expected someone to do, but it was 2018. It was the middle of the day. It was
wow.
It was during the day. It's like it's not. This country isn't what people think it is.
Yeah, yeah, and I think as well, being we've all lived in London, like. Not to say that racism isn't alive and well in London as well, but there's a lot of people more used to a multicultural situation. A fear. I don't know if you read any of those posts from Yemi, but I imagine that there's been situations like that for yourself as well, even up till really recently.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, Yemi, I just wanted to pick up on your point where you said that you hadn't felt 100% yourself your whole life. Like I completely get that 100%. I mean, I grew up in Glasgow, and which actually, apart from this one incident I'm going to tell you about, was really not that racist. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, hold on. If people were racist, they were ignorant with it. So it was definitely about my hair. I used to always have braids when I was younger, and a black woman will take our hair and take out our braids and put new braids in the next day, and it'll be short, then it'll be long, and it'll be this and it'll be that. And people used to always like touch my hair and just be like, wow, how does it do this and how does it do that, and things like that. And I must say that's the one thing I've loved about COVID is that nobody wants to touch your hair anymore. It's amazing. But, even like moving to London and like being a black woman that's Scottish, people don't really understand it. People don't get you. You're too posh for some people. You're too black for some people. You're too much of a woman for some people. You're just too this, too that. And I must admit, like, these past few weeks, I definitely agree with you, is that now I'm just completely unapologetic about it. I am Scottish and I'm black and I'm African and I'm here, and I will talk about Black Lives Matter and I will go on protest. And if you don't like it, you can fucking unfollow me. I really don't care. Just don't, but don't come in my inbox with your all lives matter bullshit. I'm not here for it. Why? Why would you say that to me? Do you know what I mean? And now I'm not scared of saying that to people, because before you're like, oh, but what if someone screenshots it and sends it to the Daily Fail and says that I don't care, I really don't care anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's a real, like, I definitely get that, Yemi. But I mean, for me, probably one of the earliest incidences of racism, one that really stands out, is that when I was a young girl in school, so maybe I think around 5th year, so maybe about 14, 15 or something, had a boyfriend. His name was Alan, and of course he was white, because the only other black people in Scotland at that time were my mum, my dad, my brother, and my cousins. There was like 9 of us, and there was the odd exchange student who you'd see walking down the street from afar, and you'd be like, you know when you see another black person in London, sometimes you do the nod. It's not the nod. This was a full-on run down the street at the person, embrace them, and invite them to your house for dinner. And that's not a joke. It actually happens lots of times. Yeah, like if we were out, and it would often be like an overseas student, like a foreign student would come and study at like Glasgow University or whatever. My mum and dad would just like would shout at them over the road and actually invite them to dinner. It happened, and we like made this network of random students from Zimbabwe and all these places who would just come to our house for dinner. And so I had a boyfriend. He was white, and we were standing at a bus stop, and this really old drunk Scottish man came over and was talking to my boyfriend and was like, "This isn't right." And I was like, what? It didn't click about what he was saying. And obviously he got it immediately, and he was just like, "Leave us alone." And he went, "This isn't right. This shouldn't be happening. We shouldn't be mixing." And I was just like, what? Like, just didn't occur to me that anybody else would have a problem. And so my friend's like, "Come on, let's go. And he was shouting after us like, you shouldn't be together. It's not right and all that. And it really took me a minute or two to really understand what was happening, because nothing so overtly racist like that had ever happened to me before. So it took me a second to realize that, oh, it's because I'm black and he's white, and he's offended and finds this problematic. And I think for me, that was definitely the earliest incidents of someone being offended by my face. And I'm sure people have been offended by my face repeatedly over the years, but like Yemi said, I'm just here now.
No more.
No more.
Well, you've both got very beautiful faces, I must say.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
But yeah, I guess that was, well, I know for a fact, knowing you so well, that resonates with you, right? In terms of having a interracial relationship.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Totally fine. You don't want to go there, by the way.
No, it's fine. I mean, yeah, we've had issues. We've had issues with in-laws and,
really?
and being disowned to that degree. That was pretty bad. We're in a better place now, but we know it took like 7 or 8 years to get there. So yeah, I've got first-hand experience of that type of situation that you're referring to there, Afua. So yeah, there was another example where, and the only reason I'm talking about this now, by the way, is because I want people to understand the immediacy, the closeness of them to their reality, to this reality. It's not like 3,000 miles away in Los Angeles, or
it's here.
Yeah, it's right here. So that's the reason I started to talk initially about these things. But there was a time, I feel like I want to say Bandcamp, but there was this time when I was at a blessing for a friend's child. My wife and I were at a blessing for a friend's child. The day before, we were in a beer garden, right? And this was 2016. just around the time of the Brexit vote. So, you know what that theme was all about generally. And we went to the pub, we were walking around, we were getting stared at the whole time. Then I realized it wasn't we, it was me. So we thought it'd just be easier to sit outside. So we went outside, found a table, quite warm, quite busy. When I went in to go and get a drink, the people in the pub, the beer garden, started abusing my missus. My missus is white, by the way. She's got blonde hair, blue eyes, obviously. But they started abusing her, saying it was disgusting, ew, putting their nose up, hissing dissent, all that kind of thing. And then I came back and they were just quiet. And the people doing it were not like random lads drunk. They were like mums and dads.
God, really?
Dads with their kids right there, like 5 and 6 year olds and 3 and 4 year olds and however old they were. This is 2016. And I didn't get told about it at the time for obvious reasons. But this is the existence that we have, that I have, that I'm sure many other people have had. But I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't tell the people whose christening we were there to go for. I didn't tell them because I didn't know, actually. Sarah didn't tell them. But this is the reality of it. This is what's going on at the moment, or has been going on. And I just feel like I feel better for talking about it. I feel so much better for talking about it. It's hard to quantify just how much better I feel about it, but I do. I didn't think I would. I was just doing it because I felt like the way that things were being reported and talked about were not satisfactory to me. They weren't satisfactory. It was just, I kept hearing things in tone of voice and messaging that was just, what? No. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to sit and listen to that anymore. I have to talk. I have to say, okay, that's one perspective. Here's mine. And I cannot, this is just my life, my existence. Here's some information. Do with it what you will.
And I mean, Yemi, that story is utterly shocking as well, but not, I guess, because it must happen. If it's happened to you, it must happen all the time. And you're talking 2016, not a long time ago.
Yeah, but it's like you just said, Lou. We live in a cosmopolitan bubble in London, although there is troubles here in London, obviously, but it is a cosmopolitan bubble. This was near the Midlands. I can't remember where we were. I can't remember, but it was not London.
Yeah,
and it was Brexit. So.
And it's like, you know, we talk about like, you know, babies aren't born racist, but when comments like that are being made in front of 3 and 5 year olds, and that, you know, maybe they don't even notice it, but it's all there, it's all subconscious. And that's what's, I mean, that's just what I think. Well, everything about that needs to change. Everything about that needs to change. Guys, I'd like to talk about the hashtag Black Lives Matter as well, because I know that there's been like all kinds of controversy over that hashtag. I've used it myself, and I've had people say, well, hang on a minute, all lives matter. And I've responded with, there was a great meme, and it was like, you know, if there's a house on fire, no one's saying that all the houses in the street matter. They're worrying about getting the fire department to that particular house. And, you know, that's sort of like a dummy's way of explaining it. But can you guys sort of weigh in on that hashtag? Afua, what's your thoughts there?
I mean, I think that analogy is actually it's the perfect one. It's the simplest way of putting it, isn't it? And it's like, we're not saying that all lives don't matter, but at the moment, Black lives are being attacked. So we're just reminding you that Black Lives Matter, and can you get behind us? And I think the All Lives Matter movement, it's the same people that say, you know, I've got Black friends, or I don't think that was racist, or, you know, you can't tell me I'm racist because my housekeeper's Spanish. Do you know what I mean? It's those people, it's that element that are defensive, that don't want to take it on board, that don't want to hear that something they might have done or said, or something that's happened in their presence is racist. They'll deny it to the hilt rather than accept it and try and change, you know. And I think the more that people use the Black Lives Matter hashtag, the more, I'm hoping that the more that people will understand it. But there is a certain element of society that will just be antagonized by people reminding them that Black people are here and they matter. They don't want to hear it. They want equality across the board, but it's those same people that say, I don't see color. But it's like, I want you to see my color. I want you to see my color. Like, I notice your color, Lucia, and I notice your color, Yemi. You know, we have to see color so that we can recognize the greatness and the richness that there is in difference, you know?
Absolutely. And Yem, thoughts on that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I've literally just come into this just recently, properly, actually, when I engage with people online, because I thought, why not? I don't care anymore. But someone literally said to me online, "All lives matter," in reference to an article that I saw posted, which I found to be just inflammatory and incorrect.
Is that the Spectator one?
Yeah, the Spectator article, which was just talking about like a noisy elitist group pretending to have an issue, and just outrageous. But yeah, I mean, it is petty when people say that, and I think what I really want to do is instead of pointing fingers at people and saying to them, it's petty, you say all lives matter, Black Lives Matter. Instead of saying that, I want to say to them, why do you feel that way? Let me understand why you want to feel that way, okay? Then I'm going to hear you. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to say, all right, okay, fine. That's understood. You feel like the NHS is at risk if people demonstrate. I get that. The people demonstrating have parents who work for the NHS, family members who may have died working for the NHS. They have no choice. They're desperate. This is them trying to be heard. This is us trying to get a voice out. I understand your point. This is my point. I think if we can get that dialogue going back and forth, we'll be in a better place going forward.
Yeah.
But I must admit, the All Lives Matter crew, they're not very good at listening. Just from what I've found, from the ones that I've engaged with, that I've disengaged with quite spectacularly, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it, and they come ready for a fight, and it's like no one's fighting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people want, they don't want people to protest peacefully. They just want people to protest quietly. They just want people to be quiet. Be quiet. You know, they don't want to hear about it. They don't want it to infect their lives, to come into their bubble. They don't want to mess up their social media talking about it. They're not here for that. They just want people to be quiet.
Yeah. I mean, the way I kind of saw it, and I'd actually spoken to somebody else on Facebook as well, and this particular person had a problem with the term white privilege as well, and I was trying, you know, I'm learning about it as well, but I was trying in the way that I understand it to explain that to him, and he's like, oh, but it, you know, it makes it sound like this, it makes it sound like that, and I'm like, yes, but it is like that, you know, it's got to acknowledge what is literally in front of you. Saying Black Lives Matter isn't a cancellation of all of the other problems in the world. It's an acknowledgement, and I want to be able to make that acknowledgement, and it's a very simple way of doing it as well, of inequality that has happened, and is still happening right now. And I hope that when I write it, it's a message of solidarity to my friends of colour and people of colour in general. So
yeah, I hear that. And you know what you're talking about, you've come into contact with people that have issues with terms like white privilege or Black Lives Matter or All Lives Matter. The thing is, I'm finding the same, and it's kind of exposing in the circles that we move in and the people that we know and the lives that we live, or we thought we were living anyway. Because even in this last 2 weeks, my eyes have been opened. Like, my eyes have been like, oh, I see, okay. So it's good on your terms where I play this role. But if I speak up for the role that I know I am, then it's not okay. That's what I've been realizing. Literally, I've been realizing that like one time after another, and I'm like, oh, geez, okay, fine, okay. This is where we are.
And that's not a very nice feeling as well, is it?
It's terrible.
I've definitely realized the same thing with certain friends of mine that I thought were, without using this term, and I know it's overused, but friends that I thought were more woke than they were, and it turns out that they're absolutely not. And you know, I had one white friend explain racism to me. Me, a Black woman who grew up in Scotland, explain what it was like for them to be, because they lived in I'm going to say China, because he'll find out who it is, it's fine. They lived in China for a while, and they were like, wow, people were really racist towards me. Like, can you imagine that? And I was like, no, I mean, that must be crazy. Like, and you know, explaining racism to me, and telling me about racism. And I was like, I am in a parallel universe, because I don't, and I just, you know, you just let someone finish because it's exhausting, you know? And then I've had people who I thought would be a lot more like, you know, I'm on your team, are you okay? Just sort of brushing over it and being like, no, that's America, that doesn't happen here. We don't have racism like that here. You know, people are protesting about America, they're not protesting about it here. And I was like, people have died in the hands of police custody here in the UK. And they're like, no, they haven't. And you know, when you just check out, it's okay.
183 since 1990.
Exactly. And it's just like, and also people are protesting, especially the protests in London, are about Belly Majunga, the railway station worker who was spat on, died from coronavirus. A lot of the protests are actually about her as well, because the perpetrator hasn't been brought to justice, although the CPS today said they're going to reopen the case. People are protesting about that as well. And it's just sometimes I don't know about you, Yemi, but sometimes it's just exhausting. You just find yourself just going, you know what, it's okay. It's okay. You know, it's like that book, Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race, which is a great book. And Lucy, you should read it.
Actually,
yeah, it's a really good book. But it's just like that. Sometimes you just think, you know what, it's okay. You don't want me to explain it to you. You feel that you are right, carry on. And that's it.
But guys, what I'd like to say here as well, and I've been reading a lot recently, and I've been trying to educate myself in as best as I can, and I'm currently reading and working through a book. I say reading it, it's actually like a workbook. It's called Me and White Supremacy, and it's by Layla Saad. And it's kind of, you know, inviting you and actually working through, like, you know, like an actual workbook, examining white privilege and examining your feelings to things like that. And you know, it's not only interesting, but it's unexpected what it's bringing up. And whereas, you know, I don't think of myself as a racist, I don't think I've been brought up as a racist, but there are things which, being born as a white person in this country, like, that are just around you and with you from birth. And it's learning about that. And guys, I'll say here as well, it's not your problem to explain to everybody else around you what it is to have lived your experience. And it is my, you know, I can't speak for everybody else, and I can't speak for every white person, of course, but it's my job to do my work about it and educate myself and learn and be better. And, you know, I want to be proud of being better than I was, you know, and this is a continuation and a lifelong journey. And this kind of, sorry, I'm rambling on a bit now, but this is bringing me on to the next question. Was the post that I made on Facebook about George Floyd and my disgust at the whole awful incident. I said at the end that I want anybody who's a racist to just unfollow me. I'm not interested. And then I kind of thought about it, and I was like, hang on, like, should I have actually said that? Because then I'm not putting people in a place of being able to engage or asking me a question. I don't know. I had issues with that, and I just wondered what your thoughts are on that.
You know, Lou, I totally understand what you're saying, but I think, like, for example, with this lady who was berating me about All Lives Matter on that article, my initial reaction was to block her and get out. But instead, I just gave it an hour and came back with a nice reasoned response for her. Because without dialogue, without conversation, there will be no progress. There'll be no progress. And what I believe, this may or may not be true, but I believe that there will be no progress unless the Black community is helped by the white community. There's nothing more the Black community can do structurally, socially, politically. We can't just, racism gone. The system's finished. We're done. Great. Next level. It doesn't happen unless the white community says, oh, okay, wait. Let me give you a hand here. So I feel like we have to communicate, we have to talk openly, we have to accept that people feel differently because they are victims of their circumstance, of how they have grown, what they've been taught, what they've been shown. I have 2 young children. I have a 6-year-old, 7, and 3-year-old, right? And I work hard. I work so hard to find things, anything that shows them in it, that represents them in it. A book, cartoon, a story, fairy tale. I mean, literally anything. And it's hard work. It's hard work. You know, you just don't, it's just not possible. Films, literally anything. So if I was a white person and white wife and white kids, it wouldn't even enter my sphere. It wouldn't even enter my sphere of entrance of my world. It just wouldn't register. And there'd be no need for it.
Yeah.
So now it'll be easy for us to say, or for someone to say, you're bad, you're racist, you're bad. And some racists are bad. But not all racist people are bad people. I don't believe that. I believe that there's victims of their own circumstance. So we have to talk about why what you're saying and doing is wrong. Why what we've been feeling and experiencing is wrong. Why that has to change. Why the system has to change. Because if we don't, we're just going to be in this for another 400 years.
Yeah.
You know? That's what I feel.
Sorry.
Okay.
I definitely agree with that, Yemi. There's almost, I mean, part of you wants to, like you so rightly said, block, delete. I'm not even engaging with you. Sometimes you feel like you need to protect your peace, you know, and protect your mind and just think, you know, and just, I can't deal with this negativity. But also, like you so rightly said as well, sometimes people just need to be educated. They need to be spoken to. You need to find out why they think that way. And actually education is key, because you're correct in that if the Black community and the white community don't work together, we're not going to get anywhere. We can't do it alone. The white community can't do it alone, and the Black community can't do it alone, and we have to be able to do it together. And that's what people have to realize, is that it's not about me against you, it's about me with you, and together we can hopefully break down all you know, some of the, or all of the, you know, in an ideal world we would unpick and deconstruct all those bits of systemic racism that are in the healthcare service, that are in the workplace, you know, all of them, and we have to be able to do it together. And I also think that's a really good point about what you said about making sure that your children are reflected. And actually, it's probably easier for me as a Black woman whose child is Black, the father's Black, I'm Black, my child is Black. So it's quite easier, for me to find things with a little dark-skinned girl in it. It's dolls, cartoons, books, you know, with a little dark-skinned girl in it, than mixed-race children. It's probably is easier for me than it is for you, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. But, you know, I've been finding little resources and places to go. There's a woman called Lindsay Pollard. She runs a company called Little Box of Books.
Oh, yeah, I know that, yeah.
Yeah, she supplies schools and families with books that represent society. So not necessarily Black people or dual heritage people. They might have like 2 dads or like in a wheelchair, but it's not the story. It's just their life. And then there's a story around it, which she's just so good. Yeah. So things like that are what we're building on.
Yeah.
It's really... Sorry, Afua, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying it's tough, and it's work every day to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have my own children, but I do have 2 young nieces who are 4 and 10. And part of the reason I did want to have this discussion is because I wanted to show my young nieces that you can do something, you can be better, you can take action and make a difference. And you guys both have young children. So, like, what would you say that is the most important message that you're bringing your children up with?
I always say to my son, because he's old enough to understand it, I always say to him, you either win or you learn. So in this circumstance, my responsibility, it's an overwhelming responsibility that I feel I have, is to just have conversations. It's just to talk to people and to improve my own education about how I should have been living for the last 40 odd years. Because I feel like, fuck, man. I'm making other people feel better about themselves. I literally have been doing that when I walk into every room I go into. Like every time, the way I dress, the way I speak, every single thing about my life has been to make sure other people don't feel fearful or intimidated, or like they're justified in the prejudices they have already in their mind. Every single step I'm taking, I'm trying to undo people's nurturing, or however you want to describe it. So I'm going to teach him, listen, it's not going to be easy. If you don't get it right, you're just going to learn from it and go again.
Great message. And Afua, you've got a little girl who's 8 now, right?
Yeah, she's 8 now. I think with her, my main thing is to instill in her that as a young Black girl, her voice is valued, that it should be heard, that she should be confident in it and confident in using her voice, and that she has a place, and also, you know, that she's beautiful and that she matters and that she's necessary, and that she has every right to take up the space that she is in. It's just giving her that confidence every day to be herself 100%. And she goes 800% every day, and I respect it. I do. I mean, sometimes I look at her and I'm just like, she's such a whirlwind. But I think to myself, I did that because I gave her license to be that whirlwind. So even when she's talking too much and doing my head in, I'm so glad that she feels that she can do that, and she really takes up her space. Like I'm proud of how she has that confidence, and I just want her to keep that, to go on with that, and to keep that real sort of sense of self that she has. And she knows she's important. She knows her heritage. You know, we talked about where she's from and all that kind of stuff, and she's very, very aware of that. And I love that. And it's just doing that work every day and keeping reminding her of who she is and how important she is.
Yeah, absolutely. And Afua, I just wanted to go back to your the demonstration that you went to at Hyde Park this week. Can you just tell us a bit about that? Because there's been such sort of different ways that it's been reported.
Yeah.
Your report you made on it, it looked like it went off really, really well. So.
I mean, from the time that I was there, from my perspective, first of all, when we got there, the police were so super friendly, and I was like, I'm not quite sure how to take this, because you just don't know what they're going to be like, right? You just don't know. And the organizers were young Black women in their 20s, and I was just like, oh, power to you. I wish I'd done this when I was your age. So impressive to see, you know, the organization that they had. They had yellow vests, they had water, hand sanitizer, masks. When people were coming into the park, they had loads of people who were telling people to social distance 2 meters, and everybody was walking around with their arms out like that.
Brilliant.
Yeah, like really, really properly doing it. They were giving out masks. They couldn't give out the masks because everybody had masks on. You know, it's just really well organized. It was such a charged atmosphere. It was very, very powerful talking to people. They knew why they were there. They weren't there for a jolly in any way, shape or form. They came with their banners in the hundreds. I've never seen so many. And it was incredible, actually. It was really incredible. It was incredible hearing John Boyega speak, and the effect that he had on the crowd around him. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. It was peaceful. It felt charged emotionally, but it didn't feel like in any way, you know, murky or like it was going to go off in any way, shape or form. I know there was a little bit of trouble perhaps later on in the day, but I personally didn't see any of that. What I did see was friends supporting friends, just some real displays of a generation that could have been voiceless but stood up and made sure that they weren't.
That's awesome.
It was.
And yeah, the article that you forwarded both of us this morning from the Spectator, we were reading that. I was reading that earlier, and yeah, it's just seems a very strange opinion to have over coronavirus. If everybody was taking the precautions that they were, you know, we are allowed to meet in parks, and you know.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. I mean, you can't account for everybody's behaviour, but you can't account for everybody's behaviour outside of this.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's not much more of a noble cause or honourable reason to speak out than this. It's much more noble than going to Bournemouth Beach, for example.
Honestly.
But people have their opinions. People will find fault wherever you take steps to make change in a system that's built to benefit the vast majority of people. But I get it. That's the way it is. That's the way it's going to be. I know we're running slightly short on time, but I just wanted to say that I've been feeling really sad. Really, really sad. That's all.
I'm so sorry that you've been feeling like that.
Yeah, really sad. Really, really sad. Like deeply sad. Like, oh shit. Like the world is just burning, like falling open. And things that I held closest and dearest, I'm now questioning.
Yeah.
And it's just awful. And I feel like if I'd made steps earlier, maybe I could have prevented it. Probably not.
Well, I guess, all we have is now, right? And
exactly.
we have is what we do moving forwards. And
exactly.
Yeah, I think I mean, obviously I can't in any way understand how you guys must feel, but I have felt the heaviness and the sort of anguish, like of a global perspective, and I just really hope it's a turning point. I really, really hope it's a turning point. Do you know what? I would love to say that I've been passionate about social justice my entire life and fighting for equal rights, but I haven't. But I felt compelled to have this conversation, and I'm going to continue to have them. And as I said to you guys before we start recording, everything today, and I believe from you guys as well, it's come from a place of love and a willingness to understand and a willingness to explain, and a genuine desire and sincere desire for equality and for people to be united and a progressive future. And I guess if we're going some way towards that, we can take some positives from it. But yeah, until we're all equal, then no one is equal. Yeah, I think maybe we'll leave it there, if that's all right for you guys.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
you. Lucia. Thank you. You've done a good thing.
It's been awesome to see you both as well. And let's maybe do it again in like 6 months, and we'll have another chat and another catch up.
Yeah.
And a redate. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Good. Definitely. Nice to meet you as well, Yemi. Keep in touch.